All right, I think that's it. We got everything recorded, so. All right, we're gonna call this meeting to order at 7:03 PM on 7/16/2020. We'll do the roll call real quick. So David Basalone, Chris DeRozier, Bruce Edgerton,
Here.
Jonathan Kastner. I saw him sign in, so I don't know if he's muted. I think that's him. Is that you, Jonathan? He's on here. I saw him. Alan Parody,
Here.
Christy Stroud,
Here.
and Ben Whalen.
Here.
Didn't forget anybody, right? All right, so approval of minutes. I just got mine tonight, so it's up to you guys if you want to read them right now or put them off until later. Anybody?
I'd rather put them off till later because I'm having a little trouble reading the things. I'm signed in remote, but
Okay.
Yeah, I'd prefer that too, if possible.
I'm looking for a motion then.
I make a motion that we postpone voting on the meeting minutes until next meeting, giving everyone a chance to read them.
All right. For a second.
Second.
All right, that's 1, 2. I got to go through the list again. Alan, how do you vote?
to postpone, aye.
Jonathan? Nothing, huh? Bruce?
Aye.
Okay. All right. Moving on to correspondence.
Hey, Tony, just
Yep.
sorry to interrupt you. I think you need to seat Christy because we are lacking some people.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, no, I'm totally spaced. I'm used to her being here. Seat Christy in favor of Chris DeRozier. Should have done that at the beginning. Thanks, Ben.
He beat
Yep.
me by a second.
Have to make a revote. All right, moving on to correspondence. I have stuff, but it's more or less along the attorney, that kind of stuff. So unless anybody else has anything else correspondence wise. All right, so moving on to public business. We don't have anything on there. If anybody else is aware of something, I'm not. All right, moving on to reports from the ZEO. And I know Mike's on here somewhere, but he's playing double duty, so I don't know if he's available yet.
I'm here.
All right, so we're looking for some updates from you.
So there are three things that are on the agenda tonight from kind of following up on a bunch of things. The first one is an update regarding section 8.1.3, which is a section you guys have related to requirements prior to demolishing a structure. And so there's a memo that was provided by the building official and attorney Jane Marsh related to that, and essentially saying that it would need to be adopted as an ordinance for it to instruct the building official to do something. So I know it was part of the agenda. If you saw the link, I don't know if you guys had time to go through it. But essentially, long and short of it is, I think as the regulation stands now, it doesn't achieve the goal that I think was intended when the commission created it. I guess I'll leave it with that, or at that to start.
All right, so I did a little bit of digging, and I just wanted to dig up the state building code real quick and see if this helps. So on this whole, the beginning, chapter 1 of the building code, and I know this is kind of outside of our stuff, but the provision of this code shall apply to construction, alteration, enlargement, replacement, repair, equipment use and occupation, location, maintenance, removal, and demolition of every building or structure or any appurtenance connected or attached to such building or structure. So that says any building, basically. And then if you scroll down to the next section, zoning approval pursuant to subsection F of section 8.3 of the Connecticut General Statute, no building permit shall be issued in whole or part for a building, although highlighted there. So I don't know specifically how that applies. But I would think that because it says zoning approval, that's kind of where we stand. I don't know if anybody else has any input on that. My guess would be to ask the state building official, but then
Tony,
again, go ahead.
if you don't mind, I mean, I did a lot of sort of inquiry into this, and I sort of have some experience with this because we deal with demolition. I sort of followed up on this for a couple reasons. Number one, it just seemed like the procedure seems sort of messy in town, which leaves us vulnerable for things. And I was looking at the procedure that was occurring. And from there is when I sort of noticed that I wasn't even aware of the zoning regulation until I started looking through some of this stuff. As far as it goes and it stands, I know that that's out of our scope. I'm basically coming, when I asked about this, about a procedural issue that we have. And I did check with the land use attorney that I do a lot of work with. And actually, I did also speak to the state building official as well. The state building official said that they do ask people to take a pause and procedurally go through the steps. He also offered that the state fire marshal would be happy to review our demolition process and basically assess what the process is. He would ask the state building official as well, which I don't think hurts. I mean, one of the things he said to me was, we actually do ask people to have people involved procedurally through this. He said, like, one of the big things they're aware of is there's always wetlands around a lot of these older buildings. There's materials that have to be removed, asbestos and other things, that there is procedural issues. He said, I can't speak about a zoning ordinance or a piece of zoning legislation, but I could talk procedurally. Secondly, I did ask my attorney about this thing, and he said, that's interesting. Because procedurally it is in your regs. And I am also aware that Clinton has it in their regs as well. Clinton does not have a demolition ordinance, and I've been held up by Clinton multiple times for the same thing. And there's a couple other ones that don't come to mind, but I am aware of Clinton, and I checked today. It is questionable. The other piece that, Mike, I'd like you to sort of dive into a little further, if you would, is one of those permits which struck me as odd is a building permit were issued on the same piece of paper, which is, I believe, the one for Deep River Oil. And when I spoke to the state building official, he had said that should not be happening. Those need to be a separate process. And the only reason I'm saying something is this is the second or third time where it almost seems like there's confusion in the process where they're issued these demo permits with a building permit and people are building without going through zoning, which is where I think that just the disconnect is happening. It's not a struggle for power or anything. It's just the fact that the steps should be followed, because there's Deep River Oil, and then there's also 362 that I couldn't even find the paperwork for if it was the same issue. I was just checking to see if it was the same thing.
So the one thing that I would offer is if you own a single family home and on a residential lot, and you decide, other areas of the state that we work in deal with crumbling foundations. So some of these houses come down. You do not need zoning approval to remove a structure, because under zoning, you are basically removing your any non-conforming rights that you have. You're abandoning all of that. So the zoning reg that you have is commanding the building official to take action on a demo permit based on something when a zoning permit isn't needed. Yes, you regulate the activity that comes after demolition, but you don't regulate the demolition. And so the trouble becomes, if they've provided their hazardous materials abatements and their utility disconnects, and they've done all their all their legwork on the building side, he has to issue that permit. He can't hold it up for a zoning reg. And so I think that's where the complication comes in. I don't know about historically what's been done, how it's been handled. I know that moving forward, I mean, I don't see any reason why it would be skipped. I mean, the building official understands, that things need zoning, and since we've been here has held things up because of, things not having gone through us. So, I'm not sure. I don't want to say it'll never happen again because I don't control what everybody else in town hall does. But the reason things weren't held up in the past is because there's nothing that I can do if someone says I want to take down any building in town unless it's on some historic registry. So that may have been where there's a little bit of a confusion.
So this is, I guess the confusion is between demolition and a building permit. Is that what we're?
Yeah,
Kinda.
I think it's because when I looked at 362 Elm Street, it was demolition and a building permit issued on the same permit. And I think what was happening, that was the one that started building without zoning approval. That's where I think that there, and I'm also questioning, because that's when I was looking at this at 362 Elm Street, where I couldn't find the zoning application. And this also happened before at 10 Woodbury Road, which was Nick Olson's property, which I think most of the commission was here, is that demolition permits were issued and construction started without going through the zoning because it was issued on the building permit. And all it was is, I understand you can't regulate. I'm not saying that. It's just in protection of everything else. You get these buildings started and other things and you're on your heels, just making sure that everything is properly documented before. As far as this other one, I don't know the answer on the other one. I can't answer it. And like I said, I know that it is in other towns that don't have the demolition ordinance and we're held up. We get waivers, and what I was told is that you get waivers, and that's why it's not considered a holdup. You can go to P&Z or see the zoning official and get a waiver. Clinton, I went through this with a house that was, they have a longer date, and they told me flat out before the demolition, you have to go to P&Z and get a waiver. And there's no demolition ordinance on their docket. So I'm just saying that should be clarified. And then also the whole process here, in order to protect everything moving forward, there just needs to be a clear-cut path moving forward.
I think, and I don't know addresses because after 2 weeks, I haven't memorized all the streets in town, but
Come on,
the
Mike,
other
you're
thing that-
slacking.
I know. The other thing that, I found it more important I learned names before I learned streets. The other thing that I did see in trying to figure out what's going on with this is that there have been building permits issued with the title dismantle permit. And a dismantle permit may in fact be different than a demo permit, and there may be some distinction as far as this zoning reg, which before this week thought was, they thought may have applied, wouldn't apply to a substantial, rebuild. If you're going to take it down to the studs and rebuild it, maybe they don't consider that demolition under the building code, and so he didn't ask zoning. I don't know. I'm not trying to make excuses. I'm simply trying to make you feel a little bit comfortable that it's not complete chaos in the land use office and that we can kind of iron this out. And I think we can. I mean,
Okay, that's my thing is, I've seen where it goes. It's happened. I mean, Tony, I know you just went through one of these in Madison. It can tie the town up horribly if the I's aren't dotted and the T's aren't crossed. And that was just basically after seeing 5 of them in the past 3 years, where it's just been very, I'd say, loosey-goosey without the proper steps. I just want to be sure that it's being properly documented and moving forward.
Yeah, so I just wrapped up a year-long contract in Clinton, and John Guskowski is the planner in Clinton, so we're familiar with what's there. So if we need to look into what they have and understand if something's different and kind of align what you want to do with how you have to get there, I mean, that's something that we can look at moving forward as far as if you want to accomplish this goal, if the zoning reg needs to be adjusted or the regulatory framework needs to be changed, we'll look at that and see what we can pull. We'll pull something together and get it to you, at a later date once we've got our arms around what we need to do.
Okay.
This is Alan. I got a simple question, and it pertains to a comment that was made earlier. If you have a non-conforming use on a site and the building is demolished, does that non-conforming use go with the building or does it go with the land?
Are you asking me?
I'm asking anybody. I'm
If
just
you were
kind of
asking me, I would tell you it depends, because any abandonment of any use of any structure, it all depends on what your intent is. If you demolish the building and it's gone for 50 years, or you try to reestablish a conforming use and that doesn't work, and you say, okay, well, now I want to go back to what worked before, that very clearly you intentionally abandon it. But if you knock a building down because it's unsafe and it's not conforming, and you decide it's going to take me 5 years to save the money to rebuild something, you can maintain that nonconformity even if the structure goes away, and that's pretty well established court law.
So basically, I think what you're saying is that the non-conforming use is with the site itself. It's not with the structure.
Kind of.
Yeah.
You have to take into account the losses. You have to take into account the intent of the
Yep.
property owner. So
Understood.
sometimes what we'll do is, if we see someone trying to move the property in a more conforming, we'll try to get something on paper that says that they understand they are willfully abandoning the nonconformities on the property so that they can't claim them again in a couple of years.
All right.
So you guys, you good with that? We got anything for Mike to do, or we satisfied with his?
Well, I mean, if Mike is comfortable that he can get this straightened out, that we're not ending up with demolition straight in the building without going through zoning approval when necessary, I'm confident.
I think there is a nuance in Deep River. 'Cause, I mean, I know, Mike, you referred to the delay on demolition if it's in a historic district. But Deep River has gone to the extent of establishing a village district with design review, which is very close to what you would find in a historic district. And there is a very clear intent of establishing that, which is to preserve and maintain the small town character of Deep River. So in that regard, I think that this issue with demolition permits is particularly important within the village district, and that there needs to be a judgment call before you can demolish a structure, since we do have that process in place. So I'm not sure exactly how that works out procedurally, but I think it is particularly important with the intent of a zoning approval relative to demolition of a building. So I just wanted to make that comment as we consider what the reason is for us having the zoning approval for demolition of a building.
Yeah, I totally understand what the intent might be. You wouldn't want someone to come in, buy a property, demolish the building, sit on it for a couple of months, and then say, well, I've got a clean site, now I want to build a Dollar General. You'd want to know, from a planning and zoning perspective, that was interested in maintaining community character. I can understand why you'd want to know that. We just want to make sure that we're going about it in the right way, so that when we do want to hold someone to it, they're not going to say this reg is bogus, So what I will do, my homework is to figure out who that has these regs or processes in place, what the regulatory framework is, and if they're even done properly. Clinton, for example, not all their regs are perfect. So we'll start with Clinton. We'll look at some other towns I know that exist, and then we'll come back with a recommendation to you guys at some point of, if you want to achieve this, this is how you go about it. So that will be my homework.
Yeah, Mike, and I got to say, I just did one in Madison that was a pre-existing nonconformity, and we went through the motions of the thing, and they flat out told us there will be no building permit issued or demolition permit issued. I'm sorry, There will be no demolition permit issued until you have gone through wetland zoning and received a building permit. They were very clear up front. I mean, I mean, we probably get one of these a year that we're tearing something down, and it's pretty streamlined through. I think the biggest thing I'd like to see is consistency. And in speaking with the state building official, he said actually they would prefer that it's very consistent between the towns as well as far as the processing. And that was one of the reasons that I looked in, and I'm sort of questioning this, is the consistency. And I know we have a very limited authority in certain areas, and by no means am I looking to hold somebody up. There's stopgaps, there's waivers. It says in there there's waivers. I just do think it's important. The reg was here before I even got on the commission, and there was obviously a reason, as Alan said.
We're good with Mike looking into this, and there's, I mean, I don't think we need a motion or anything, but he's gonna do some research and get back to us. I think we're good. That's good.
Yeah.
All right. So moving on to number 2, the steep grants.
So we just threw that on there because as of 2 days ago, the state did release a new round of funding for steep grants, small town economic assistance program. It's different than usual. There is a match, there is a cap, there are some limitations, and you know it's outlined in a you know a whole grant release that they had. But you know they really are looking for COVID related projects if they can have them. So this is more just to put on your radar. If you guys have projects or if you've discussed things in the past, I would say email them to Tony and we'll aggregate them and start throwing them up against the steep grant protocols and, you know, kind of figure out if there's anything that's worth really looking at. They were just released 2 days ago, so it's still pretty fresh, but I just wanted to make you aware that those are available.
I'm gonna throw out one thing, because this is, I mean, you guys are probably gonna think I'm a broken record here, but I'd love to have all this permitting and stuff online. So if that's, you can force that for COVID stuff, that'd be fantastic. You know, anything we can do to get more of this stuff digitally would make me happy. So
yeah, and there are some options for that. Certainly, you know, longer term, there are programs that do online permitting that are free to towns.
yeah,
So if you know, not that, we can talk about it. But yeah, I'll make a note and we'll look and see if that would work.
can I throw one more at you since we're talking about it? The GIS, I mean, that would help anybody who wants to do research who can't get into the town hall. So, I mean, maybe another one to look at if everybody's okay with me rambling away here. Anyway, that's all my spiel for now. If anybody else has anything, let me know. If not, I think we're gonna move on to funding for planning and zoning.
That was just, you know, I don't know, Tony may know more about this than us, but, you know, I know that John attended your last meeting, but we are essentially contracted through July, I believe. So at some point, I imagine there's going to need to be an ask to the Board of Finance if you know, you guys wish for us to basically stay. So I just, you know, I want to sort of be open and transparent about where the process is, where we are, and what needs to happen moving forward. We're happy to stay as long as you'll have us, but that's the status of the contract. So I just wanted to let you guys know that.
I mean, Alan was the one who went last time. If he's willing to go again, I mean, I wouldn't mind that. I notice he's not saying anything.
We do have funds available to us, correct? We already have, I mean, we already have money allocated at this point. We could just get a new contract and start working, at least, so we're not having a gap, and we run them as long as we can.
Right.
And hopefully get this settled out.
Right. And there's still gonna have to be discussion with the Board of Finance, et cetera.
Yeah.
Tony, this is Alan. I'm happy to go back to the Board of Finance to discuss this issue. One thing that came out of the prior meeting was a directive from Board of Finance to try to get a permanent ZEO on hand, as we have had in the past, because they had a comfort level with that.
Yep.
And seemed to have a preference for paying salary rather than a consulting fee, even though it was pointed out to them that they're both equitable in terms of getting the service that we need for the same cost to the town. Now, I think we do need to show some good faith in having placed the advertisement. I believe that Angus has done so.
Yes.
But I think it would be important for this commission to also voice a preference that our commission isn't dictated by Board of Finance because they want to pay for one thing but don't want to pay for another thing.
Right.
We need to demonstrate the efficiency and the of getting things done and the quality of the work. And I think we should voice our preference for how that gets done in context to this, as opposed to it just being a decision of Board of Finance based on which line item they want to fund to pay for service.
Right.
So I'd be happy to speak with them again, but I do need to respond to their request to us to look into hiring a CEO as quick as possible. But I think that our response would be that this is the direction that we want to take is to use a consultant because of the breadth of experience and the ability to get a lot of these other items done. So
Agreed. I mean, yeah, and I have I know we have Indeed and Casio stuff out there. So I do know there's just to throw this out there, I know there's a couple of applications that have come in. We should probably have an executive session to look at them. But my preference is for Mike and John. So, if you guys are open to that, we could have an executive session at some point if everybody's available. Thursday's good for everybody.
I think that's a good idea, Tony, is
Okay.
to have that discussion about
Mhm.
about our options.
Yeah.
And about the retention of services. And I think that's what we should be bringing to the Board of Finance.
Okay. I will put something together and send out the regular Zoom stuff. But yeah, I mean, if you, like I said, if you're willing, I'd rather have Alan go. He's got his head around the budget and dealing with those guys. So if everybody else is all right with that.
And excuse me, this is Ben. In the interim here, Tony, do we need to get a contract from these guys just to start reviewing? Because if it's July, obviously they're going to need to put forward another contract.
Right.
That might be a good start as well, as to sort of get that prepared so we could see what we're looking at. We saw the last one. If there's changes or anything, we should know up front before we get too far into it.
Yeah, Mike, when are you done? The end of July?
Yeah.
Can you get us something else going forward?
Yeah. So it would just be, we could look, I don't know what you guys have set aside or for how long either, so you can tell us the duration, but the terms would be the same. And, when I spoke with Angus about it on Wednesday, he seemed very much on board with wanting to keep us there, and I think he, not tooting our own horn, but, we've really tried to hit the ground running and solve some of the problems that have been sitting and waiting. And so I think he sees that we're really putting in the effort, and I'm hoping he's on board as well. But we'll put together a contract, and we can get that to you guys so that you can have it to review, but the terms will be the same as far as, nothing will change.
Great.
Mike, this is Alan again. One of the other issues that came up and is expressed by the first selectman as well as to the Board of Finance and reiterated by the Board of Finance was the concern in regard to hours, where it's the perception that we're getting less contact hours going with a consultant than when having a full-time CEO in the office for 4 hours, 2 days a week. It's my perception that in the amount of time that you've spent, we've actually solved quite a few issues,
right.
and that and the argument that we made is that there was going to be significantly more efficiency using you guys, and I think that that's been demonstrated. I'd like to get your opinion. Do you think that the workload that we're facing, from what you can see, that there'd be any issue with meeting that with the amount of hours that you have available under your contract?
Yeah, so my recollection is that we committed to providing a minimum of 20 hours a month. So we are in the building at least 4 hours a week, but have been there the full 6. Frankly, like I said, we do this in other towns. I think what is more important and what is more beneficial is the fact that we're essentially available via email all the time, because what happens now is if somebody sends an email at 1 p.m. on a Wednesday, I mean, they're waiting 5 days until someone comes in on Monday morning to solve that issue or answer that simple question. Can you send me the application? So by us being available via email 5 days a week, because we're full-time, even though we're not in Deep River full-time, we're triaging these things all the time. We're answering phone calls and we're answering emails, and we're if Angus has a question because someone's barged into town hall and is, we're available. So I think that frankly, that's more important than even a couple hours in the building, because not everybody can be there between 9 and 11 on a Monday and a Wednesday. They work second shift or whatever. So, we've made a point to both monitor the email box that comes in. We don't let things sit. And I think that, that's worked out fairly well. But I believe our contract we have with you now, which certainly wouldn't change, is a minimum of 20 hours a month.
Right. And I think that's going to be important to express to them, is that we've got a commitment to a minimum number of hours, and we've got an arrangement that I think is going to be more beneficial to the public because of some of the flexibility with the hours.
Right.
So I just wanted to make sure that I brought that up, because that is something I'm going to need to respond to the Board of Finance with.
All right, so we're all good on this front now?
I'm
Anybody
going
else?
back on mute for a moment.
Oh, go ahead.
So, Tony, sometimes if it takes me a while to respond, it's because I'm fumbling trying to get me unmuted, but I'm muting again.
Okay. I thought you had something else to say. So I guess we're moving on to attorney, and I do
Hey,
have.
Tony.
Yep.
Tony, this is Bruce.
Shoot.
You got the question I asked about Spruce Ledge Farm. I don't know if that is something we should be bringing up to Mike and asking about or not.
I was going to ask. I thought maybe under new business. Do you think? You should
Okay, that's
bring it
fine.
up now?
No, it doesn't matter. While Mike was here, I just didn't know if you were going to handle it. That's all.
You're not running yet,
That's
Mike, are you? Okay. So you got a letter, and I got an email from the attorney. I don't know, right at 7 o'clock. So I'm going to throw that up real quick. He talked about the Prisley litigation. He said the oral arguments were held in court yesterday. I may as well just read it. Prisley litigation update. There was an oral argument held before the court yesterday on the Planning and Zoning Commission's motion for summary judgment, which is the attempt to eliminate the case prior to going to trial. According to our attorney, it went well, and the judge seemed to understand all the arguments. She took apart all but one comparator piece by piece. So if it survives, it looks like they will only be left with one comparator, 20 Hemlock Drive. The judge will now deliberate, and we don't really know when we'll have a decision. It could be weeks or months. Moving on to Westbrook Road, possible illegal subdivision. And he emailed me about this a little while ago, and I believe Mike has taken care of this.
Yeah, do you want me to just give you a quick update?
Yeah, please.
So I think that I don't know if there's more people that have written an email or a memo about Westbrook Road in the last 6 months. Multiple attorneys, Torrance and Julie. So there's all kinds of paper. But basically, as on Wednesday, I issued a basic certified letter to the person who, I guess for lack of a better word, performed the action, and the current landowner, and basically informed them that I don't feel what they did was legal. I don't see how it was eligible for a free split. And I'm asking them to provide that documentation essentially within the next 30 days. If they don't provide it, we will file a notice of some kind on the land record stating that it was an illegal subdivision, which will then give the assessor the ability to erase the line, delete the account, and basically it goes away. The property has transferred 4 times since this happened, from person A to person B, back to person A. The bank has foreclosed and then sold. So it's very complicated. There's a lot of moving parts, but at the end of the day, he has nothing to prove that he's in compliance, and it's on him to show that. So if he can't, then we'll get rid of it.
All right. And then the only thing left is Cranberry Bog release of the subdivision bonds, which the zoning enforcement officer should be all over, and the engineering Jacobson. So, I mean, I can throw out what I know is going on, or Mike, if you want to talk about it.
I'm just reading through because
It's
it's
the
small on
one
the
that
screen.
doesn't have the monuments yet.
Yes. So I emailed with Joe Dillon and I said, I see a memo here from May 20th that has all these things that are outstanding. And he said, as of now, the only issue is the monuments. The developer, I guess, has a beef with how many monuments he wants to install, but he's the one who put the monuments on the plan. He's got to put the monuments in. So it's not ready. And that's where we left it. And I think he's aware that remains the position.
All right. Let's see. I'm gonna get rid of some of this stuff. All right. So that is attorney, engineer. I got nothing. Planning. Nothing that I know of. Regulations committee. Anything? No. Chairman, I have nothing. Budget. I mean, we kind of went over that already. I guess we can open this up to the audience if there is anybody who has anything.
Hello, Tony. Gary Clark here.
Hey, Gary, how's it going?
Very well. I have a question. Do you still have openings on the P&Z board?
There is 2, I believe, for alternates.
I just have a question as to why they're not being filled, number one.
I have not seen any applications, so I don't know. That may be.
Well, I'm
Go
just saying because, I mean, I put in an application over a year ago, and that's the only reason I'm wondering.
All right. I can ask Angus about it because I have not seen your application.
Well, it was before you were chairman, but again, it's just a question. It seems like, you know, we keep talking about needing the public to get involved, and people try to get involved, and then we get shunned, I guess.
All right. All I can do is look into it for you.
No, I understand, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot. Like I
No,
said, it happened before you were in there, but.
Nope.
And secondly, Mike, I'd like to tell you thank you very much for all you've done in this short amount of time.
All right. Anybody else from the audience? Gary, you're done, right? Anybody else? All right. So moving on to payment of bills. We have one from Jacobson, and then I have a whole bunch more, but I'm not sure because they're not on the agenda, because I'm the green guy here, if we can act on those or if they have to be put off. So looking for some input here on the rest of them. But for now, there's a Jacobson bill for Hoop Hole Hill Road for $842.40.
It can be all done together
Oh, all right.
because yes, they would, and especially with the ones from the attorneys, they
Yep.
are from the old fiscal year, so those
Okay.
need to be approved and paid out of the old budget.
Thank you, Nancy.
Welcome.
All right, so there's the one from Jacobson for $842.40. I'll just go right down the line here. So, go ahead.
Can I ask a question about the lawyer's fees? Because when I was at Board of Finance, it was clarified that we don't have any budget for legal. That runs through the town,
Mhm.
And I'm kind of questioning how we authorize payment for something when we don't have any budget for it.
You know, I remember you bringing this up. You're right.
And are these all things that were inquiries? I didn't get a chance to look through them because again, I've been on the road most of the day, and I glanced at them, and I see a lot of them were questions from Julie, and whatnot. So it's fairly clear where that was initiated.
Hmm.
Um,
Well, the
but
Prisley,
I can,
yeah, the Prisley thing's been
I guess
ongoing.
I'm just being like, I'm not sure about the process if I can't really clarify what issue this pertains to or how it came up or who inquired. My understanding is that it's only the chairman that can make an inquiry to our legal. And so if you didn't make the inquiry, then how do we authorize payment?
I agree with Alan on it. I don't think we authorize the attorney payment. I think that's out of a different budget.
I think that's got to be the selectmen that authorize that.
What has been the procedure, because this has been this way for a number of years now with the legal being under the selectmen's budget. The bills, because the attorney is still the attorney for the commission, the bills come through the commission.
Yep.
And okay it, and then pass it on to the selectmen for final approval and payment, even though it's under their line.
So I have a question about that then. So should these be separate? So should be the attorney ones on one side and Jacobson one on a separate, because that's the engineer and that's actually us?
You mean a separate motion?
Yeah. Just to keep it clean?
You could, typically or it can be done as one motion for, approval of the bills.
Yeah.
But the selectmen would review that as well, but technically the attorney is addressing the bills to the commission because that's who, the work is being done for.
Okay.
But again, if you're asking me to approve these bills, I have no knowledge whatsoever about the inquiry or the response or anything. I have no knowledge of any of these communications. So how can you turn to me and say, hey, can you approve these? I honestly don't even know. I can look at it and say, yeah, it makes sense that, these are issues that were P&Z issues, but it just seems like an odd procedure for me to be approving something that I really have no firsthand knowledge of.
Hey, Tony,
Mm-hmm.
it would seem to me what we're really kind of doing is voting to move the bills forward to the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah.
Because like Alan says, we can't know every line item and know whether something is right or not. There are times when bills come into the commission that we can question and say, wait a minute, I don't remember this. And
Right.
we can raise questions about a bill that goes forward to the selectmen. But for us, I think really to approve a bill, it's kind of, I think, sticky ground.
Okay. I mean, I have no problem putting them forward to the selectmen. I'm still kind of hung up on one's under our budget and one's under their budget. So if you guys don't mind, and if you don't mind doing this going forward, splitting the two, so vote on Jacobson's and then the attorneys separate, if that makes sense to everybody.
I would tend to agree.
Okay.
Are you saying that, Tony, just for my clarification, we pay for Jacobson at our budget, correct?
Yes.
Do we pay? Yeah, so I agree then. Yeah, you got to split it. If we're paying for one and
I mean, either way, they're going to get motioned and I think keeping them separate, for me, it just makes sense, I guess.
I would agree.
So since we got that one in front of us, motion to pay the bill for Jacobson for Hoop Hill Road.
So moved.
Looking for a second.
I'll second.
All right. It looks like Christie beat you. So Ben, how do you vote?
Yeah, yeah.
Jonathan, you still there? All right. Bruce, how about you?
Yes.
I will vote too. Yes. All right. So I'm just going to cruise through these real quick. We got Prisley litigation, grand total $2,449. We have, this is Westbrook Road that Mike just talked about for $1,116. We have, this looks like 228 West Elm for $3,503. This is Cranberry Bog, $682. And this is General Matters with a grand total of $11,282. So I guess we're looking for a motion to put this to the Board of Selectmen. Nobody, huh? Looking for a motion?
I'm also confused on this. What is, I mean, the bill, they haven't received payment on this bill. If you go back to these,
Well, all right, let's go to the first one. So Prisley,
This is the first ones they've submitted, as far as I know.
yeah. Right, and Prisley just had litigation yesterday.
yeah,
Right.
because look at, it's a running balance on here. I mean, not that this is our issue, but that starts from 2019. There's no payment or credit on that. So this bill hasn't been paid since 2019.
Looks like it.
I mean, this is not that's our problem, but this is crazy that you get hit with an $11,000 bill that's been a running tally for a year.
Didn't we already close out our budget from last year?
You're the budget guy, Alan.
As far as I understand it, no?
I'm not sure what the date is, but Kathy mentioned to me that these can still be paid. It's still in July, but I don't know what her cutoff date is. Where they would still pay it and apply it to last year's.
I would imagine it was July 15th.
Yeah, this is insanity that you're getting hit with a bill that we've never seen for $11,000. It's been a running total for a year.
And again, it's not our budget, I guess.
Right.
That's true. That's true.
I was gonna say, I mean, I think if the selectmen have a problem with this, they're gonna say, no, we're not gonna pay it.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny as it says terms net 30 up top. Yeah, it hasn't been paid in a year.
Well, net 30 from the date it's submitted to us.
Yeah.
Well, that's true. But I mean,
You know, I really need to defer to the person who requested the legal consultation to say, yep, I requested that, and yeah, they responded. You know, that's the dilemma I have. Is I have no knowledge of any of this. It's okay, yeah, I see that they're all issues that were active and that we had pursued some legal counsel, but personally, I'm just at a little bit of a loss to say, yeah, that all makes sense. I have no way to make any sort of judgment on this.
You're getting what you wanted.
Yeah, I mean, I'm at a loss. I don't know that we've had this much discussion on this before, so I'm, again, the green guy, so I'm just gonna take people who've been on here before word that this is how this is done.
Well, this is part of the problem of wishing to have our own budget and to monitor everything ourselves. And now we're reaping what we sowed on that. And it's getting people a little bit befuddled. If we voted no, not to pay it, it would have no impact on whether that bill was paid or not, because it's still going to come back to the first selectman
Right.
and finance board.
And again, I
Yeah,
think that's all we're doing
it
anyway.
seems if it's not in our budget, why does it come to us to approve it? I think it's a conversation of selectmen with either the chairman or the CEO who made the inquiry to legal counsel. And that's what they need. It doesn't seem like it's an action of the commission.
I guess,
You know,
I mean,
it seems in the past we, not the commission, but the town, has changed procedure for convenience, and because of that convenience, if you want to act on it responsibly, we've got to say it's not our decision anymore.
I mean, I remember we used to get these for approval all through the year. We've never gotten attorney bills in how long, and this is being dumped right now.
I was gonna say, I think you're supposed to just discuss their appropriateness.
Yep.
Like we know Frizzliak, that's at court. I mean, I think they come to us, we look at them and go, is this at court? Yes, it's at court. I mean, does this seem reasonable that he was in court? Things like that. Westbrook Road, I know he had to look into it for legal matters. So, I mean, is that reasonable?
Which one is Westbrook Road?
That's the subdivision that Mike just talked about.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right.
If you hop over to 228 West Elm, that's the tear down of the oil thing there, where there was some back and forth. Cranberry Bog, we know he's been having a discussion whether or not they can close on that.
Yep.
Hopping along to general matters. I'm going to go through that line by line.
That wasn't me. Yeah, well, in that regard, Tony, then I would say, yeah, all of these are matters that the commission is addressing. And so in that regard, I would say, yeah, that these are all appropriate matters for them to be coming to the commission to discuss,
Okay.
the validity. But
Yeah.
in terms of the amounts or anything like that, it's not in our court.
Well, that's why I'm looking for a motion to put it forward to the Board of Selectmen.
I make that motion.
Thank you, Bruce. Looking for a second. Anybody?
I guess having said that, I think that these are appropriate matters to have been discussed on behalf of the commission, then I will second that motion.
All right, second. Ben, yeah, you voting?
Yes.
Christie, you still there?
Yeah, I vote yes.
All right, Jonathan. I think he's having trouble with his mic. I vote in favor, so there we go. And where are we? We're at payment of bills. Budget. I mean, that's payment of bills, and talking to Mike has pretty much been our budget unless anybody else has anything else. Commissioner training. I have nothing. Regulations committee. I was on here twice. I don't think anybody has anything yet. Moving on to old business. Anybody have any old business they want to talk about?
Yeah, actually, Mike, are you still there? I have a question.
That was him leaving. Yeah, he's still on here.
Did you ever get that paperwork for 362 Elm Street, Deep River Farms? Were you able to?
Oh, you know what? Hold on one second there.
He's muted.
Yeah.
Sorry, technical difficulty.
Did you hear Ben's question, or you need him to ask it again?
Yeah, please ask it again.
Um,
Sorry.
Great.
were you ever able to get that paperwork for 362 Elm Street, Deep River Farms?
I think John was working on that. It's 362 Elm.
Yeah, Elm Street, Deep River Farms.
Yeah, I think John was working on that. I will touch base with him, and if there's been something, I'll have Tony send it out.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, when I was looking through the file, we were missing a zoning application and a whole bunch of stuff. He said, I think he was waiting to get some additional stuff.
Okay. Yeah, I'll touch base with him and figure out where that stands.
Thank you.
Any other old business? All right, moving on to new business. We got discussion on mobile vendors, but I know Bruce wanted to bring something up too, so. Oh, they got motorcycles going by, sorry.
Yeah, just a quick question, Mike. Whether you've seen anything from Spruce Ledge Farm on Route 80 for a permit for doing concerts and yoga classes, et cetera? Whether they came in and filed under that, under this COVID thing or this agricultural permit on a farm?
Not that I'm aware of.
They are advertising all over Facebook, evidently, for concerts and other kinds of activities that maybe they have not filed a permit for.
The only thing I could say is I know there was a number of permits that were pending and dealt with before we got there, but I am not aware of anything related to that at all since we've started.
So I'm gonna bring up the same thing for Deep River Farms. It looks like they added about 100 new things to do there, concerts, etc. And I know we've grilled other farm businesses for this kind of stuff. So, I mean, that's, you know, here we are hammered some people, and then these other people, not the same treatment. Just to be fair and across the board. I don't mean to single them out, since Ben has already brought them up once. But just throwing out my 2 cents.
Yeah, I'm more in the fairness aspect of, I know that Laramie Farm went through the motions, Boggy Meadow Farm went through the motions. We've got to be consistent if there are other people doing these ag-related activities.
Right, Laramie Farms comes in every year for a haunted hayride. I mean,
Right.
That's how, just to, again, back to fairness, so. Anyway, the other new business was the discussion of mobile vendors. I know Mike sent out Clinton's, and he was looking at Madison's food truck regulations. And he and I kind of discussed maybe we should talk about locations and where, and so that's where we're at. If you guys are open to all that, if Mike has anything he's got to say.
Yeah, no, I think we just put it on here just in case there's anything specific. You know, we can, if you want, what we can do is try to find a reg that is probably a good place to start. I'm not going to write anything, but I mean, look to say, okay, this town deals with it most appropriately, and you can use that as a foundation. If there's things you guys are for or against, you know, we can kind of mold it around that. But towns handle them, some via ordinance, some prohibit them, some allow them. You don't need anything. It's all across the board. And so we'll compile something and kind of get you a good baseline for where we think it might be a good place to start.
Yeah, could you check with Killingworth too, Mike, if they're not on your list?
Sure.
I was talking with the folks over at the High Nine Brewery in town a couple days ago and asking them about whether, with the COVID going on, whether or not they were going to get a food vendor in there. And they said it doesn't make any sense for them, because if they have a food truck come in, they have to get a separate permit each day that truck is there. in order for them to be open, doing the beer and having that food truck. And if for any reason that food truck backed out or didn't show up, they've already got employees on hand and everything else for that day and would have to cancel it. So they were considering not doing that. But I mean, that's a good location in itself that's off
Right.
of the road that supports a local business.
So I guess you're looking for is something, so the permitting is longer than a day?
Yeah, I guess there is a class with the two things. I understand there's a class of license that you can have if you're a place like that brewery. If the vendor comes in and is not preparing food on site, and it's just like snacks and things, that they would be able to sell that there, and the business would be able to be open.
Okay.
Anyway,
No, I like that. So I guess you're gonna get us something that you think fits best for our town, hopefully covers more than one day.
Yeah, I mean, from our perspective, you don't want people showing up anywhere, putting a picnic table on the lawn, creating a traffic hazard.
Right.
You don't want a food truck to park in front of a restaurant. So there's things that you want to deal with, and so it may be that if you're doing X, Y, and Z, it's a staff permit. But if you want to do the following, you need to go to the commission. And if you know the dates, we can approve them all at once. But if not, so there's a lot of variables. But the food trucks are inherently temporary and they're inherently short term. And so a long P&Z approval process is going to make it so you'll never see them, right? So we have to sort of toe the line. So yeah, we'll pull together something, just like I said, to sort of start the conversation so you can look at it and say, I agree with this, I disagree with that, rather than us contemplating everything from scratch, if that works for you.
yeah, just think of another place too, Mike. Two Roads Brewery down in Stratford has rotating food trucks depending on the day of the week. And they put a sandwich board out there in front saying this is the one it's going to be, we'll be featuring for food.
Yep.
So another thought.
And Branford does that too, don't they? At Stony Creek.
I'm sure, because the state really likes to see alcohol or food available with alcohol. And so having to get approval from everybody to serve food on the premises is difficult, but just calling a food truck in is really prevents them from having to put money into a commercial kitchen and health approvals and septic designs. And so it's become very popular, I think, for that reason. So yeah, we'll get something rolling.
Cool. All right. Is everybody good with that? All right. Looking for a motion to adjourn then.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Bruce.
All set.
Nope. That was Alan. Seconded. All right. Ben, what says you?
Aye.
All right. And that was Alan. Christy
Yep.
and Jonathan, who's kind of out of this, and I vote myself to close. So, guys, thank you. We closed this at 8:07.
Good night, guys.
There. Thank you, guys.
Yep.
Everybody have a good night.
Night.
Yes, sir.